Studio Shrinkage podcast number 37.
112. 112. Feels like 100 of them, but 37. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. If it feels like 112, we're probably in trouble. I have to say.
Well, I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Oh, the nicest way possible. Okay. Well, everything's running. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, we have a normal podcast today. Well, depends on what you mean by normal, of course. But normal for us podcast. In other words, we don't have a normal. Yeah. By our
standards. Yeah.
By our standards, yes. So we're going to start with the news, and I have actually a bit of news. But I don't think. Well, the biggest piece of news to me is the incredible, to me personally, actually, loss of Chick Corea, who was a master. I got to meet him a couple of times, and I must have seen him perform, I don't know, 12 times or something like that through the years. And just a master. And there was no one like him, and he was simply the best. So that's enough of being depressed. So anyway, he happened to live here. Which I knew he's a Bostonian, I think. He comes from the Boston area. But he lived down in Clearwater, Florida, for reasons that I'm not going to get into. But anyway, it's a loss. It's a loss for sure. Yeah. But my first, I don't know how important this is, but there's something called a Synth VR. And the reason this caught my eye... it's developed by a company called 42 Tons, T-O-N-E-S. And what it's for, it's a virtual synthesizer that you use with Oculus Rift and Quest and HTC Live goggles. And it looks pretty cool, I have to say. It comes with over 30 sense modules, and it's it's a modular, which means I don't know if you pick things up anymore, you plug them in. It's
cool. Yeah.
It's really, really. I just thought it was so off the wall and such an interesting take on both sides of things, both the modular side and of course virtual reality. So I thought that was a really interesting piece of first news.
That looks like fun.
Doesn't it look cool? Don't you want to go out and buy all the stuff that
Yeah. It's close to getting the new one that you don't need all the wires with.
Right.
It's like half the price, but it's kind of, you're limited because it's not, you don't have a computer with it.
Yeah.
It's called a Quest. But at any rate, yeah, I'm very intrigued by VR and the possibilities. I've never really thought of it in the music realm, but that is
fascinating. It brings to thought ideas like playing drums in the air. And what else could you? I don't know about bass or guitar. It might be harder to do that, but drums would be pretty easy because it's hitting things, so you might be able to hit things in midair or something. I don't know. It's all intriguing. We'll see what happens as engineers continue their quest for these kinds of things.
There's a game kind of like Guitar Hero. What do they call it?
Yeah, Guitar Hero. What's it called?
Instead of using a controller, I forgot off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But you use the VR. You put on the VR goggles, and you're standing in this open space, and these blocks come at you on the cue of the music, and you have to hit. One's red, one's blue, and you have to hit. With the it looks like a lightsaber. I think it's called Beat Saber. There you go. And it looks like a lightsaber from Star Wars, and you got to cut the blocks as on cue on the music. So, kind of more of a game. It is a game, but it's music. You have to be on time and play against the music.
Oh, that's funny. Cool. That's pretty cool.
It's called Beat Saber. Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway.
What's your next one? First one?
Well, I've got two. I'll go with the first one. We keep talking about this because you have a dilemma with your control surface, and we've been talking about this for years. There's a big market out there that everybody's missing the mark, and of all people, SSL dropped their own small desktop controller. And SSL is Solid State Logic, a British company, makes some of the biggest recording boards and best recording boards, and probably in the history of recording music. And their stuff is quite expensive.
Yeah, it is.
However, this board is, I don't know how they did it because most of their stuff is a lot more expensive. I want to say it's about $1,500, and it's well thought out, well designed, fits smaller studio desktop, only 8 faders. But I think for most of us out there, that's probably enough. I know you want maybe 16 or 24 faders, but I think 8 faders is a good start. And the software they designed for it is so cool. You can set up layers so you can quickly switch between software. Some of these control surfaces, you had to reboot, hold button sequences and NASA launch codes to restart it, and it's a pain in the butt. Especially if you're in a session, you're going back between Logic and Pro Tools. But the software, you just have layers, shortcuts, hotkeys, and soft buttons that you can control just with their software. And it looks kind of cool because it's an SSL piece.
Of course,
there's no audio going through there, so it's just control. But that's probably how they kept it at a good price point. But it's called the SSL UF8, and I thought that was one of the coolest things to hit this year.
Yeah, all the new stuff I looked at it, of course, but. It would have been $3,000. It would have been $4,500 to buy enough of them to put together to make it be worthwhile to me, and that's a lot of money. Because in fact, one of the reasons, if you compare that as an example to, let's say, a Behringer's Wing, not only do you get an entire digital audio console, but a controller with 24 faders that you can control, and it's like $2,500, $3,000. I mean, it's and it's I know there's no comparison between an SSL, but you're talking. It's not audio. It's just a control surface.
Control surface. Right.
Yeah, but it's intriguing. I have to say, it's a beautiful piece, and if that would be one of the things I would probably.
I just wonder if this might be a start of a series, and maybe they'll make a 16 or a 24 version that'll still be quite affordable comparatively. There's just that missing niche right there.
Yeah.
The small to medium control surfaces. Or no, I'd say there's just a lot of small control surfaces, but that medium between the large and the small, the medium control surface market is non-existent. There's only been a few pieces.
Oh, I agree. It's terrible.
Last 10, 15 years that have done a good job, and they're no longer available. So,
no, I mean you have to go to Avid. And there's so much money. Avid stuff, it's so ridiculous.
Not cheap either.
Yeah,
but that's ridiculous. That's one of my news pieces. You got any more?
Yeah. To follow up on your PA, EV has released a new PA that's very similar to what you were talking about a couple weeks ago, called the Evolve. And I think what makes this different is that there's a mixer in back. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 inputs. And then actually 5, 6 inputs if you. Yeah, because it's also got Bluetooth and everything else. And I don't know how good or bad, but it looks pretty neat actually for this kind of stuff. It's very similar in design. I mean, everyone's going to make these things. And it sells for 1,900 euros, which is probably $2,000. It has the same kind of array. It's got 8 3.5-inch drivers in the sub, 12-inch sub, and it's intriguing. Also acts as a DI input. So you have 4 mics. One could be a DI stereo line channel input and a Bluetooth input. It's another take on the very thing you were talking about last time.
Yeah. They got it for $16.99 at Sweetwater. So
that's pretty good.
Very affordable. Yeah, pretty good price.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a similar design, kind of that array stack.
Yeah.
fill up a bigger room
Yeah.
with a little bit less gear.
Okay, that's one more. Here's, I think, a really biggie. I have two more, actually, and then you can do another one if you want.
Okay.
I don't know how new this is, because I think it's one of the things that just fell through the cracks for my brain, and that is the Sony Alpha 1. Do you know about the Sony Alpha 1? It is, some people are saying it's the most powerful mirrorless camera on the market. It does 8K.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I've heard, and I could be wrong, I read something somewhere, and I wish I should probably, before I say something about this, probably follow up and find out about it, but there is some overheating issues from what I've heard with 8K, but I don't know that. Personally, I don't know that. But the camera itself looks, wow, just impressive. 8K 10-bit video just looks amazing. So, and people swear by Sony stuff.
Yeah. I saw a demonstration of that doing a burst mode, and I want to say it's in the 100 plus frames per second without shutter. I forgot what they called it, but when you're doing burst mode on a DSLR, the shutter physically opens and closes a bunch of times, and you see that while you're taking the pictures. But in real time, they're able to just hold the button down, and you don't see any of that shutter.
Yeah,
and it's super quiet, and it's one of the first cameras that can do something like that. It's pretty cool.
So, yeah, it looks impressive. Okay, I don't know if we finished talking about the Alpha, but anyway, it's $6,500.
It's not cheap, yeah.
It's not cheap, but it is impressive looking. So anyway, it's another piece of news. Here's one for you, Will. Here's a piece of news for you. You may know all about this and probably know more than me, but I'm kind of, why didn't I do this thing? DJi Care Flyaway coverage. Do you know about that?
No.
Okay. It replaces drones lost in flight.
Wow.
It's like an insurance policy for your drone. Don't you think that's cool?
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Sometimes accidents happen. DJi now offers a new program, DJi Care Flyaway program, in its DJi Care Fresh service. It covers Mini 2 and Mavic Air 2 lost during flight. And they'll replace them. Water damage, collision, high drops. Plus, additionally, they are offering accidental damage repair starting at $50 for both drones. I think this is a really slick thing. Now, I haven't smashed my drone.
Well,
I haven't. Well, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to crash, especially if you're flying at night and you can't see what you're doing. You fall over trash cans. But that's for another story, for another day.
Yeah.
But here's it. The replacement, before you receive the benefits, you need to pay for the DJi Care Fresh service. It costs around $80. So anyway, there's costs involved, but it's interesting. I mean, if you're a guy who's a girl or a guy who's going to fly drones all the time, not exactly the silliest thing, because it depends on your point of view. I mean, your drone, what does a Mini 2 cost? $600?
$600. You have to fly more kit.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have to buy the whole fly more kit. You just buy the drone replacement. That's so. And the Air 2 that I have is $1,000 for the fly more, probably $7 or $8. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you lose it, you're probably getting half the benefit if you smash it and crash it. So it's not bad.
You won't have to replace the whole thing.
Yeah. That's all my news. What about you? You have one more, you said.
Yeah. Last but not least, I'm a big fan of Audix mics, and they just released. They were talking about releasing it about a year ago, or they announced it a year ago. I'm assuming at NAMM. It's a condenser microphone. There's two variations of the new mic. It's the A131 and A133. The only difference being is the A133 has the roll off and the pad switch that a lot of mics have. About $100 difference. It's $399 and $499, but they sound really good. And
they're vocal mics.
Yeah, or large diaphragm condensers. So you can use an instrument. So they have some demos of recording guitar and a female vocal, and they sound fantastic. And they're really affordable, but they make a really high quality mic. I just remember, like the i5 I have. It's like, well, not to take away from the other companies like Shure. I know people that have 40, 50-year-old SM57s, but I have an i5 from 15 years ago that sounds just as good as day one, and I've dropped it a thousand times. And you just make really durable, affordable mics that sound fantastic. And I know you had, I don't know if you still have them, but the pair of those weird lollipop, the
lollipop mics.
SCX1 or whatever they look like.
Those are great mics. Yeah. They're great for piano.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And those are not cheap, but most of their stuff is affordable comparatively to everybody in the market. Yeah. But I haven't tried these myself because they're just now hitting the market.
Yeah.
But hearing some of the demos online, they sound fantastic, and I've always been a big fan of the Audix mics. So that's what I have for news.
Good.
That's all.
So today's main topic is mastering, the art of mastering. Well, first of all, we should start this out by saying we are in no way going to discuss the art of mastering, because it would take. There are people that have spent their entire careers way beyond our pay grade, being masters of mastering. I think it's much more to discuss why you'd want to do it, if you do want to learn enough about it. Everything you learn is good, so you're not going to waste it. But it'll also help you by remembering that you're going to master or have your song mastered. At the end, it affects the kinds of decisions you make during the whole process of recording, because everything you do has an effect at the end. And if you're changing, let's say reverb and stuff like that, let's say you're putting reverb over the entire mix at the end. Well, all the reverb you've already put on each individual person is going to be affected by that. So all of these things think about it as a gain stage thing, where you have something here, and then you put something there, and you put something there, and you have another plugin on this, and then at the end you add more plugins, and everything changes. So you have to remember that. And those decisions are, if you're recording with the ultimate goal of having your song mastered, you have to keep in mind that everything you do will and can affect what you're going to do in the mastering stage. To me, the main purpose in mastering is actually to have, and this is contrary to what we're talking about, because we're really talking about the person who did the writing, recording, music, playing, and at the end mastering. It's all one person. But in the real world, not in the real world, in the non-real world, when you have lots of money, and you pay people to master your music, if for no other reason, you have another pair of ears who might look at things a little differently than you did. And that's one of the biggest advantages in having someone else master your music. Now,
that was the first piece of advice I was ever given when I started not to learn, but like researching mastering, was do not do mastering on your own music. You're just gonna you need a separate pair of ears. If you have to do it, you have to do it. If your budget doesn't allow you to send it to a mastering suite, there are online services, but it is really expensive to send it. At least in Chicago, I know there's still a mastering suite or two downtown Chicago.
It's not cheap.
But it's not cheap at all. If you have to do it yourself, you have to. But
which leads me to another point. If you're going to do it yourself, my first piece of advice for you is wait a couple weeks. Just wait. Don't. In fact, frankly, I would give the same advice for mixing. Remember, you're doing a bunch of hats here. First hat, you write the music. Second hat, now you're the musician. And all you really want to do there is capture as cleanly and as unaffected as possible with your recording. Don't worry about how well anything sounds, other than you want it as clean and pristine as possible, untouched when you're recording. Then you put another hat on, and that's when you go back and you actually start mixing. But that should not be done right away. You need to. Every time I mix right away, I'm going to be honest with you, it's crap. It's always crap. So what you have to do is come back to it with a fresh set of ears and go, oh, okay. because you will. I guarantee you'll find stuff that you did not find when you're in the recording mode, and I guarantee when you're recording, you're finding stuff that you're doing when you're playing. You need to. You're wearing separate hats. You have to do it. It is absolutely mandatory in mastering that's also the case. If you're going to master yourself, here's a really basic idea. Have a friend come by. Have somebody else listen to it and say, boy, it'd be nice if, you have way too much low-end frequencies here, man. It's overwhelming. I believe other people are going to hear things better. Now, in my particular case, one of my biggest problems is that I'm 238 years old now. And because I'm 238 years old, my hearing isn't what it used to be. In fact, I've got a bit of tinnitus. And so I know that what I hear is not what I hear. I know that I mix louder than I used to because it's really the only way I can really hear everything. So those are just little pieces of information that I think are pretty important things. But the art of mastering is a whole different ball game than mixing, because you're treating the song as a complete finished product. And the goal is not to go and remix. The goal is to take the mix and make it sound as pleasing and equalizing everything so that it's one complete. If you're doing like more than one song, as an example, if you're doing an album or if you're doing, an EP, you have to remember about consistency of volume, and all of those things have to be kept in mind so that when you're putting something out. Also, there's some other things that it sounds nice, but it's not just that. You also have to keep in mind things like leveling. I mean, what you have to meet the criteria of whatever, however you're putting it out. And there's some. You can look this stuff up online and find out what's the dB output. What is a good dB output, and what does it match? Just when you're doing video, it's even. I mean, if you're sending a video into a TV station, it has to meet, absolutely, it has to meet certain criteria. If it doesn't meet it, they won't even look at it. The problem today is everything's going to YouTube, and everything's going to MP3, and everyone. So I am sure, I'm sure that when you listen to stuff, you go, why is that 4 times louder than the last thing I heard? It makes me crazy on regular TV sometimes. TV commercials are like, what are they doing? Like, why is this so loud? And then the last one is like, what?
Yeah. Movies are the worst when you get the music and the action scenes and the house is rumbling and then they start talking and you can barely hear them. I thought there'd be a standard for that. But anyway, that's a little different. But you made an interesting point, is that especially musicians that have been playing for years in concerts and halls and stadiums or whatever, your hearing isn't what it used to be. I'm lucky when I was at the peak of my audio career doing mixing in shows and recording live shows and fixing DJ setups in nightclubs. I was using a lot of hearing protection. So I think my ears, as I'm into my early 40s, I think my hearing's a little better than some of my friends that are about my age in the industry, especially the DJs that just love to hear the loud. They used to have the Mackie speaker in their face for a monitor and just the ringing of the ears and stuff. But you have to, when you're gonna master your track, you can't mix it till it's right at 0 dB. You have to give yourself what's called headroom. I was always taught, give yourself about 10 dB. And I know it sounds quiet, but it gives you room, because everything you do in the mastering process will add a decibel or two here and a decibel or two there. When you maximize or you add a little EQ or you do some spatial imaging, it's going to add some more volume to it. So if you're already at 0 or -1 decibel, everything's going to be in the red unless you super smash it down with like ultra compression or limiting and stuff like that. So you give yourself some headroom. It's not you want to mix it to your best of abilities to make it sound like a solid mix, but it doesn't have to be loud. You can get some of that back in mastering.
You can get it back in mastering. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of tools. If you're going to master it yourself, there's a lot of tools available to you by all the plug-in manufacturers. Waves makes some. I mean, everybody makes some. Certainly one of the the biggies would be Ozone, Izotope, Izotope, right? Izotope, yes, is a terrific. They make phenomenal plugins, and recently I updated my plugins because I had like 10-year-old plugins from them, and now I'm producing an album right now, or I'm writing an album, and we're doing a bunch of stuff, and we have to mix it. So I thought maybe I should think about mastering, which is why this whole thing came about. And boy, if they change in 4 major revs, holy cow, it's a different ball game entirely. There's some incredible automated processes that they do. That the plugins are amazing. They'll analyze your mix. They'll tell you what frequencies are off, what frequencies are, and then they'll ask you things like, do you want a loud mix? Do you want a medium mix? All sorts of stuff. And then they take that out of consideration and go and spit all the stuff out. They give you a basic starting point. It's so unbelievable. I cannot believe how great it is. I have a hint for you. If you're going to do this, don't leave the plug-in on while you're recording.
Yeah.
Because I ran into a Marty Doofus problem where I was recording and I had forgotten I left the Izotope plugins in, and I was hearing this incredible delay. It's like, what is going on in the studio? I was like, I'm checking mics and cables and moving people around. Anyway, the problem was there was a lot of delay because it's a mastering suite of software. It's not meant to be used while you're recording live because the delay doesn't matter. So anyway, I was making me crazy. So don't do that.
When you have the Ozone plugins, the Ozone suite, it also installs each individual plugin. So if you look at your list of plugins, there's 12 or 13 plugins, I think. Yeah. So if you run the Ozone total plugin, you can only imagine you're running 12 plugins at once. That's going to eat up some CPU power. So yeah, probably don't want to use that while recording. You want to use it in the mixing / mastering process. Yeah. Because it does take us some resources, but again, it's more for the after the recording. Right. So you have an example for us, right? Yeah, our friend Henry from a couple podcasts ago, we helped him narrow down a few decisions to get back into recording. He had recorded for maybe 10 years, and he wanted to get a new computer and interface, and we kind of helped him finalize some of those details. He actually put down a song with his band. He mixed it, and he did a real good job of sending me a really good mix where everything was really separated, so I could hear the bass a little separated from the drums, and then the guitars. Everything was just separated nicely, a little reverb in the guitars. The one problem I had was the bass was a little heavy, and the drums were way up front, and the guitars were way in the back. So without having the stems, I was able to go in there and master it so it sounded polished and ready for the radio, and it was pretty quiet when he sent it to me, so I got a little bit of gain. I'm glad he sent it to me a little quieter and not pushed it to 0 dB, and I didn't tell him to. I don't know if he did that intentionally or by accident, but it brought up some volume out of it. So this is the song with let me switch to my So it's FL Studio. It's just I'm just showing an audio track. I'm not really doing, recording or anything. But this is the song as he sent me without any mastering on it. Everything sounds good. Like I like the drums front of mixes, but I just still feel like the guitars are way in the background, and I wanted to feel them a little closer to me. So go ahead and add Ozone. It already adds a little volume, but there's a little secret I use, and it's in the mastering section. It's called CD Master. And it adds a multi, EQ with 4 bands. You got your multi-band compressor and a maximizer to get a little more volume out of it. Right. And one thing I really like about Ozone is you can isolate frequencies by holding Alt. and I wanted to bring up the bass just a little bit, but I also wanted to roll it off because you don't really need anything below 30 or 40. Most people are listening on their iPhones and on their Alexas and whatever, so you don't need a lot of that bass, but I just want to make sure we don't lose too much of it. And then I just still wasn't happy with how narrow the mix was, so they have an imaging piece that I can just by band take some of the mid stuff and give it a little bit of ooh. This is without, and this is with it.
Yeah, it's really big difference.
It's amazing, yeah. And I hate to be the one to use presets, but it's just a starting point. Add a little EQ. Or
actually, I disagree with that. I don't think it is weird to use presets. I think using presets is brilliant. I think it's how you build synth sounds. I think it's how you build. One of the problems with modular synths is you don't have a preset to start with. So I think starting with presets is brilliant. I always start with presets. Now, it doesn't mean that down the road, once you have tweaked the preset to be the way you like it, you don't save the preset. Now it's your preset. I mean, it's terrific. I think it's a great starting point.
They absolutely let you save it in your own user bank. Mm-hmm. But every music's different. I don't want to save this because it might not work with a rap guy or a rap song.
Of course.
So I start the CD master, maybe add the imager to bring out the stereo image a little bit, but it's a night and day. This plugin is probably one of my favorite go-to plugins when it comes to finalizing a track. I hate to say that I'm mastering it because it's probably not the same as running it through a $6,000 GML EQ or a Smith Design C1 or whatever these $3,000 or $4,000 pieces. But for guys like us that are working in the box, this is just one of the better mastering tools.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool, and Waves has these things, and I mean I have a bunch of different mastering tools, but I'm so impressed with the new Ozone. I can't believe it. Now, by the way, I don't even know how new it is because they're probably going to come now that I bought the update.
I'm sure coming out next week.
Yeah, next week. That's the way it always works for me.
Yeah.
God, it's so frustrating.
Well, the big version of Ozone is a little pricey. I want to say $600 to $700. But Waves right now has their mastering suite, their mastering bundle for I want to say right around $300. So even if your budget doesn't allow you to get Ozone, there's still other great tools out there that do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, for sure. So I have a song that we just recorded and it is not mixed. So just for the heck of it, it would be interesting, even though it's not mixed and it's not even really completed. It's just being worked on. And I will show you this in a second. And it would be fun for us to play around a little bit with just to see what it sounds like. So I'm going to share. I am. It's so beautiful. Okay, so here is the stereo out track, and I have no plugins, but I'm going to plug in Ozone here, which I don't know where it's going to go because I have 38 screen. There it goes. Oh, it's right there. Is that it? Okay. So let's just listen to this. Let me get this out of the way for a second. Okay. Let's just listen to this without anything. Can you hear that okay?
Fiction of you and me. Fiction of you and me.
So it's not mixed, but it's on a way to being mixed. You can hear everything pretty well. So if we go and the mastering track here, and one of the things I thought was really impressive here was, where is the, I'm not familiar with this yet, so Master Assistant right here. So if you click on this, it comes up with this this is so amazing to me. Do you want a vintage kind of a sound? Do you want a modern kind of a sound? Now, the last time I did this, I did modern, so let's just pick vintage this time. And things like intensity can be controlled, loudness, EQ, blah, 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 streaming, CD, destination CD. So let's just say we want a medium intensity manual system. And we're going to play it again. It's going to analyze the audio. So here is what it came up with. It came up with an equalizer, a vintage EQ, a compressor, a vintage compressor. These are all vintage things because I chose vintage. Came up with a limiter and then a maximizer for the same reason that yours did. And let's see what it sounds like without and then with. Okay, that's without. And there it is with. It sounds clearer, it sounds punchier. This without being mixed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that you can do this. So
it's huge for people that don't necessarily have.
Right.
Well, how do I get this louder, or how do I make this sound punchier? How do I make this closer or further or whatever?
Right. And it doesn't mean that you can't go in and tweak everything, as you can see. I mean, there's equalizer 1. There's the vintage EQ. This is really slick. I've never seen this before. Really cool. Compressor is off. Am I right that by being dimmed out that it's off?
Yep.
Okay, so if I was to hear it with and without, now it's on. Oh man, big difference.
Yeah, night and day.
Wow. It sounds like I know what I'm doing. Great. It's great. Now, is this the end of what you want? No, it's the start of it. I mean, you can, again, this is even better than a preset. It's like a preset that's adapted to your music. I mean, of course, these are all presets, but it's based on analyzing the frequencies, the output volumes, and the mix that you've done, and then taking all that information and saying, okay, this plugin would be good, this plugin would be, I mean, this is so much advanced to what I had last time.
If you have Ozone specifically, you can use these separately, but it's nice to have them all in one setup.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. If you get this out of the way, we can. Yeah, all the plugins can be. I mean, here's all the plugins that come with Ozone. Well, that's not true. It's more than Ozone. This is Ozone Mastering Suite or something. I don't remember even. So it comes with even more than normal stuff. But all this
all
stuff
right
comes
there
with,
in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all part of it. It's very, 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 very impressive. I mean, I have the most of the suite, I believe, of Waves, and I like Waves plugins a lot. But I have to tell you, I understand why people use this a lot, because it's just, I mean, it's just really impressive. So I'm a fan. I'm glad I don't have buyer's remorse in this one.
Yeah, this is this was my little best kept secret for a while, and I know when I was in the sales gig, I knew a local producer that's now with a big record company, and he was nominated for a few Grammys, but he said that he was doing work for a rapper, which is a Chicago guy that got pretty famous for a while, and he said, listen, man, he likes my music and he uses half of my music, but when I go and show them what I have recorded, it's never as loud as this guy, which has happened to be Kanye West. Was making beats 10, 15 years ago when Kanye West wasn't as big as he is, a household name now. But he was saying, man, he brought in his own beats and they were like so much louder, hit harder and pounded. The whole room lit up on, some far fields in the studio downtown. And he's like, how do I do that? I was like, well, he's probably sending it to a mastering guy downtown, is what I'm guessing, because it sounded like it was radio ready. So I showed him this plugin, and he was running his stuff, his mixes. He'd mix them, run it through Ozone like 3 or 4 at the time, or 2, or I forgot what it was early in, and it was still a good tool back then.
Sure.
And I told him secret sauce is the CD. We were talking about the sauce a couple weeks ago with that fat sausage fattener. Well, I was like, secret sauce is called CD Master, and it used to be called CD Master Widen and Excite. Since then that's that, but I know how to add some of that excited, widening and exciting. back, but he used that and he was able to get some much louder, more finalized sounding beats or songs, and he felt more confident going into the session with them, and it was pretty cool that a professional was able to use a plugin like this and get his music mastered without having to take it to a mastering suite,
Yeah. There's also all sorts of information online about this kind of stuff. This is 10 tips as an example. Consider your destination appropriate loudness standards. Remember I was talking about the fact that there's actually standards for things that you're going to put things out on. There certainly is with video, and there is with audio. So you have to remember that genres are very different for each other. The way things are mixed are very different depending on the genre you have. So you have to use the appropriate references. The way it sounds on one thing is different than the way it sounds on something else. Metering, of course, is a big deal, but there's a lot. And then one of the suggestions is that perhaps you only use 1 or 2 or maybe 3 tools in the beginning, because the more stuff you have, the more complex it can get. So here's something that's really interesting. Work in reverse. Try to achieve the desired level first, then apply dynamics afterward, and move on to EQ after that. So many tutorials promote the opposite, actually. EQ comes in first, blah, blah, compression. So there's ways to work that maybe you haven't thought of. So there's a lot of different tricks that you can use. You also mentioned, Will, that there are online people that can do this. Online mastering companies where you send the audio to a mastering house online. It's much cheaper than going to an audio place or a mastering engineer. But you can kind of pick the engineer, you can the kind of credentials they have, and then say, here's my tune, and send it in. And I mean, you can actually do I hate to say this, but you can send music to Sans drummer to Dave Weckl if you want. I mean, Dave Weckl will be glad to fill it in for you, but it's going to sound unbelievable, and it costs you some money. So it depends on your point of view. But all these things are really incredible. What a time! It's an amazing time to be able to do all this stuff. So, okay, I think we've worn that subject out, at least to the best of our skill set. And that means it's time for plugins. And I have already used my plugin. I just showed it to you. My plugin, of course, is Ozone 9. And you've seen everything about it. And the reason I'm saying this is because it's so much less work now that I have to do, because I just talked about it. Except that there's some really cool things like Neutron's part of it. There's ways to buy their stuff in packages. The total balance package is $700, and Ozone itself advances is $500, and you get packages. When you buy a package, you're going to get it cheaper. So I would look, if there's something that interests you besides just Ozone, you can buy it cheaper if you do a kit. The music production kit's $1,000, but it's a terrific tool, as you saw, and I would strongly advise it. That's my plugin. I'm cheating. What's your plugin?
Okay, so it's not a mastering plugin per se, but it is from a company called OEK Sound.
Oak?
It is called OEK, OEK Sound, OEK Sound. And it's called Sooth 2, so it's the newer version of Sooth, which was for a while like the best kept secret in, I think, mostly electronic stuff. It's not a mastering plugin. It's called a dynamic resonance suppressor. So what it does is it smooths out or soothes some harsher frequencies without taking away all your dynamics. So it smooths them out without over compressing. Because if you've already got a good mix, but you just get a little digital distortion or harmonic distortion, or some harshness, this thing will smooth it out. They've added a few features in the version 2.0, which actually allows you to dial in the speed and attack of the compression portion of it without, again, over compressing. And there's a soft and a hard mode with a simple knob that helps you just dial it in. But then there's also frequencies you can pick, select. It's kind of like multi-band. So you say, well, the mids need a little more, or the highs need a little more here and there. You can actually dial in yourself. So it's pretty cool for when you're finalizing your mix and maybe you mastered it, but there's just still something there that's a little too harsh. Use this. It's not super expensive. It is $219 for the full version plugin. If you already own Sooth 1, it's $59 to upgrade.
Good.
But they're getting a lot of reviews from different magazines and won a couple awards. Gear of the Year 2020 from 2021 SOS Sound and Sound Award winner, and then Gear of the Year 2020 from MT, which I'm not sure what MT is. That is Music Tech.
Tech, yeah.
I used to have that magazine. I used to be subscribed. So yeah, Gear of the Year. So it's getting some notoriety. If you get a chance to check it out, I think it's pretty cool.
Cool. Which leads us to, yes, the last thing on our list, which is gear we would love to get, but I'm going to be so calm today, you won't believe it. Third week in a row. I haven't been spending money.
Mine's ridiculous.
Well, yours will probably be more fun. I'm going to tell you mine then, because yours is going to be more fun. So as you know, I am a huge fan of Kemper. I've been a fan of Kemper for a long time, and it is an amp simulator, but I'm not really. It's more than that. It's samples, and it's an incredible tool. It's a modeler basically, but it's a profiling modeler, which means that you can sample amplifiers. It'll take the amplifier, and then you'll have it. And I think we talked about it in the past. There is a new guy on the block.
There is,
and it's a little concerning. But I can't think through the years. I've heard some dumb names before. This one just is beyond belief. It's called the Neural DSP Quad Cortex Quad Core Digital Effects Modeling / Profiling Floorboard. I'm not kidding. That's the name.
That's a mouthful, yeah.
Yeah. It is. It does the same kinds of things. Here's the big difference between it and the Kemper, is that it has quad cores. It has 4 processors, and it is because of the processing power. It does things that I've just never heard. Plus, it's very small. It's only about like so big, and it's a floorboard. And all I can do is maybe just play a couple of things for you. Let me see if I can find some sounds for you, because here we go.
And scene F.
Okay, I have to. This guy's a really good player, as you can tell. But oh my God, it sounds so great, and I want one.
It looks small, like
isn't
smaller
it?
than your
yeah,
some of your pedals.
It is
a little
incredible, just incredible sounding.
Price is a little bit better than
it is
the Axe Effects and the Kemper.
I know,
right?
It is, yeah. Anyway, it's impressive. So that's my pick. What is yours?
All right. Since you started talking about headphones today, started looking around, and we started, looking back and forth, and I just upgraded, or I wouldn't call them necessarily upgraded, but I changed my headphones last week to the K245s, which I'm happy with. But I was like, what if I just really wanted to go all out and get some real headphones that come with an XLR connector? I don't even know where I'd plug that kind of headphone in, but it comes with an XLR cable. These are the Focal.
Oh, yeah.
They're French, apparently.
Yep.
Focal Stellia Closed back reference headphones. They're quite the looker. They look almost steampunk, but they got this copperish kind of brown leather look to them. Kind of unique, very unique. And like I said, they've got a ton of different connectors you can use. They have a range of 5 hertz to 40,000 hertz. To put in perspective for some people that don't know, the human ears can only hear 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz.
So the question would be why?
Way beyond. I don't know. There's harmonies sometimes you can get that are created in those ranges that we can feel but not hear. Anyway, these come in at a fairly reasonable price point.
$4,000.
$2,990.
Yeah.
So right under $3,000. Well, not too bad. But these are probably the most expensive headphones I've ever come across in recording. I know there's some audiophile stuff out there that probably sells for more in your home theater selection area, but for recording, I think this is the most expensive headphone I've ever seen.
Yeah,
$2,990.
Yeah, they're incredible, and I saw them as I was going crazy today looking at headphones, and I did lots and lots of comparisons. I used DTE 770s, which I thought they're quite old, and I thought they were screwing up, and perhaps it's just another Martyism, but they seem to be working right now. But it's going to be interesting to hear the comparison, because I was doing some testing today with different sets of headphones, some Audio-Technicas and some K240s, and that is the end of our podcast, which
that's it.
We have run long.
Yeah, that's due to some technical difficulties.
Yeah, well, we're going to cut that out. So until next time, Will.
All right, Marty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.